Hello, my friends. I am excited to announce that the Society of Classical Poets is now a Freedom 250 partner. Now, for those unaware, Freedom 250 is the nonprofit organization leading the celebration of our nation's 250th birthday, a movement of citizens, organizations, companies, and leaders from across the country assembling to honor our nation's proud history. So this is just fantastic. What it means for us is the Society of Classical Poets will be hosting a national poetry competition, publishing an anthology, and holding a performance event reflecting on American liberty and civic virtue. So I have a lot of big ideas for this, but the specific details still need to be worked out. This literally just happened yesterday, and so there's a lot of work that needs to be done still. Nevertheless, this is a big deal. Now you may be asking yourself, why is this a big deal? I mean, come on, who really cares? Well, for the past, really, as long as I can remember, the major poetry awards have been bestowed to people who tend to be highly critical of America. Not surprisingly, many of these people are university professors. We are a long way from the image of Robert Frost the farmer, or Ben Jonson of the Bricklayers Guild, Louis de Camões, seafaring adventurer, or even Francois Villon, thief and murderer, if you want to get dark. No, the big prizes today are all going to elite PhDs in high status positions, and this has resulted in a certain narrowing of the kind of verse that you tend to see in print. These awards all offer enormous cash prizes, and they tend to not be awarded in the typical democratic manner. That is, you submit your work and judges decide which is the best. Instead, a committee handpicks the winners and just gives them a huge award. Often the people winning these awards are the same person. Let's just take four of the most lucrative prizes: the Ruth Lilly Award, the Wallace Stevens Award, the Jackson Poetry Prize, all of which are $100,000 awards, and the biggest one of all, the Bollingen Prize, $175K, almost twice that of the others. Now, if you look at lists of recent recipients of these awards, there's a good deal of overlap. And when you include all the awards amounting to less than 100K, the Pulitzer Prize for Poetry, the National Book Award, the PEN Award, etc., there are a lot of these smaller awards. Many of the same people are winning these too. I asked ChatGPT to tally all the cash awards for all the prizes that the current US Poet Laureate, Arthur Z., has listed on his Wikipedia page. And it's this totally absurd amount. It's more than $700,000. Ditto for Joy Harjo and Sonia Sanchez. Now, I'm not trying to go out of my way to single people out here, but these names keep cropping up again and again, and it's just unavoidable. Harjo has won all four of the biggest awards, and that's just $500,000 right there. So don't ever let it be said that there's not any money to be made in poetry. There is a life-changing amount of money to be made if you're part of the club. The granddaddy of payouts occurred in 2022 when the Ruth Lilly Prize was awarded to not one person, but 11 people. The cash prize was not divided between them, rather, each of them got $100,000. Many of these poets are, again, the same ones that we see on the other lists. Now, this raises the question, where does all this money come from? How and why is there so much cash being doled out to, of all things, poetry, a subject that not very many people care about? I mean, if it were science or math, okay, nobody would question that. But poetry? Really? Well, in the case of the Poetry Foundation, they got all their money from an old white lady who was the heiress to a pharmaceutical fortune, so they can afford to give out $1,000,000+ in prizes in the span of just a single calendar year. In the case of these other organizations, I can't really say where the money is coming from. My hunch would be that it's some combination of taxpayers and students paying too much for university tuition, but I don't really know. Which reminds me of that Margaret Thatcher quote about socialists being great at spending other people's money. But what I find most striking is not that so much money is flowing in the name of poetry. It's that so much money is flowing in the name of poetry, and people still don't care about poetry. Robert Frost won 4 Pulitzer Prizes, and he's great. He's a household name. But why is it that these other poets today are winning all these top awards, yet the average person still isn't reading them and has never heard of them? Well, I think there is a very simple explanation for all this. For all of their elite status, these poets remain obscure among the general population because their poetry is obscure. The big poets today are winning awards not because of any inherent quality in their work, but because they have the right kind of backgrounds in terms of both credentials and cultural status. There is an extreme ideological conformity that governs who gets what, and for the gatekeepers to let you in, you have to have the correct opinions about things. Now, I'm not just trying to complain about politics here. I think that the main problem is more an issue of style. No big poetry awards today are ever given to people who write metrical, rhyming verse, although they used to be. And when you talk to normal people, that is, people who aren't academics, this tends to be the kind of poetry that they like. I don't think it's an accident that, in proportion as the academics took over our literary institutions, normal people stopped caring about poetry.
Times are changing, Betty. These nerds are a threat to our way of life.
People who believe that the purpose of poetry is to achieve social justice also tend to think that you should never use descriptive adjectives or elaborate metaphors in your verse. According to this view, simple minimalistic verse is more democratic, more equal. But this is, of course, a false correlation. Using small words and writing badly has nothing whatsoever to do with social justice or equality. What it does indicate, though, is that you are not very smart and that you have little to no training in the English language, which is why I find it really hard to read the type of poetry that wins the Pulitzer Prize or gets published in Poetry Magazine or gets promoted by the Academy of American Poets. Now, what does our Freedom 250 competition have to offer in contrast to this? Are people going to stop binge watching Netflix en masse and devote themselves to penning beautiful verse? Is poetry going to solve our economic woes or stop our foreign enemies from building AI robot armies intent on destroying us? No, probably not. But the idea is that this could be the first time in a long time that a noteworthy poetry prize is given to someone who is celebrating our country as opposed to Marxists who are relentlessly critical of it. That is at least something. It signifies renewal amidst decline. And of course, the winning poems will ideally not just have positive subject matter to talk about, they will be well written. Meter, rhyme, good metaphors, maybe some alliteration, other literary devices. Our competition will be looking for the kind of strong poetry that poets have written throughout our Western tradition. So there will be more details about this in the months to come. Again, this is just an announcement. Also, it was a long digression where I complained about stuff, but I don't just want to complain about the state of things. I believe the state of things can change. I believe it's going to change. I want to look for real solutions. And one of those solutions is partnering with other like minded organizations who are also looking for solutions, like Freedom 250. This award system that I've described is not in place by popular consent. It is an artificially propped system. We need to break the power of these corrupt institutions. We need to build better institutions. And part of the way we do that is by getting the word out. Personally, I am very excited about the prospect of this. I think it could be a big turning point, and I hope you will join us on this journey.